Cool. Hi, Will, and thank you for joining me on the Warriors Raised podcast. It's an honor to have you with me here today. Thanks for making time for this.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Awesome. So I was just hearing from you about, I asked my favorite question, what's been the highlight of your day so far? And then you were telling a little bit about wrapping up with sparring, and I'd love to hear more about that to start off with. It's a great starting point for us today.
Yeah, so I teach martial arts out of Champions Creed in Calgary, Alberta, and they have a morning program that's called Champions Rise, where uh, adults, or I guess we've had a couple teens with little to no martial arts experience. They train together for 21 weeks, and then at the end, uh, if they like, they choose to have an MMA fight. We partner them up with somebody with equal skills, so it's a
Mhm.
fair fight. And yeah, so today's the 20th week. Today was the last hard sparring day. On Fridays we just do MMA sparring, and they're weighing in next Friday and fighting on Saturday.
Wow, it's really exciting. How many people do you have in that group, in that program?
I think there was like 40 people, maybe 42 or something like that. And I think 30 of them are fighting.
Oh,
So there's 15 fights.
oh, that's really cool. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really cool program because a lot of them choose not to fight, or a lot of them have fought and then they do the program again, and you know for whatever reason they choose not to fight anymore. You just see people, their skills develop so fast, and I think it's because you know the goal is to have a fight, right? At the end of the 21 weeks. But even though you may not fight, sometimes the goal is just a direction that you need to move towards, you know? So the people that have stuck around with it, there's some people that have done like 4 seasons now. And yeah, it's incredible what a transformation, you know, uh, what a transformation it's made for them, just in their confidence and in their skill.
What's the biggest thing that there's so many different directions. I want to ask 8 questions at the same time right now. So we're going to clone ourselves and jump into different Zoom rooms. But I'll start with this one. What's the biggest transformation that you're observing overall beyond the physical, getting better at fighting?
Confidence.
Confidence. Yeah.
Confidence. Yeah, definitely. You know, it's probably, there's you can easily say that 99.999% of the world will never, you know, I guess want or have the guts to get in a cage and, have a fight with somebody. So, I mean, I really think it's really impactful, especially when you do something so hard. And you walk around consistently thinking about it. So it kind of makes everything else, or at least for me, it made everything else seem not as hard, because it's like, that's not so bad. At least I don't have some dude trying to rip my head off,
Yeah,
you know. So that's kind of how I
totally.
take it.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. It makes everything else seem a lot easier. You're a little bit frozen. We'll see how it connects back. Can you hear me okay on your end?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay, cool. It's
Yeah,
just
it's green in here.
yeah. Um, yeah, such an incredible experience. It's funny. I was thinking about this in class last night. We had a really awesome no-gi session last night, and like I remember, well, Colton, he likes to joke that like only jujitsu is real. Everything else is just like the like extra stuff in your life. That's like, and it really can start to feel like that, where you're like, especially when you're training in those moments of just like deep presence, the rest of the world fades away. You're super focused. And, but then when you add something like competing, and yeah, everything else can seem really trivial compared to that intensity, for sure.
Yeah. When you're training so much and when your focus is on, fighting or competing in whatever martial arts you do, I feel like everything else starts to fall in place. You're like, well, maybe I'm gonna make sure I get my 8 hours sleep, or maybe I'm gonna make sure I drink lots of water. I'm gonna make sure I eat right. Just because as a fighter, you always want to have that. You always want to have that edge. Like you don't want to feel like somebody else is doing more than you are.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I love that. For like, we often have sessions 9 a.m. Saturday, Sunday morning. It's really easy to like dip out from a party early. You're like, I actually want to be fresh tomorrow so I can bring the heat for my training partners and not
Oh yeah.
be underslept. Yeah. I missed what you said there because there's a bit of a lag.
I said you don't want to suffer in the morning.
I don't want to suffer, and also I don't want to let my training partners down. you know, yeah. So in this program that you're running, can you tell me a little bit more about it? It's like how frequently you meet, a little bit more about the like what your role is in that.
Sure. The training schedule is 21 weeks. It's from doors open at 5:30, classes from 6 to 7, and we stay open till 7:30. So it's about 2 hours, Monday to Friday. And there is a Sunday run day that the guys do with Coach Nick Ring. So he is Nick. He's the head coach of the program, and he's the UFC vet. So I think he had like and
Right.
then there's other coaches.
I lost you there. I lost the audio from. We'll see what it does. Like sometimes the connection will repair itself. If not, we'll hop off and restart. But I missed from Nick. He's the head coach, and then I missed everything else. The audio cut right out.
Yeah, so Nick is the head coach of the program. He's the next UFC fighter. I think he has around 7 fights in the UFC. So he teaches, I believe, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I teach Monday, Thursday, Friday, and then there's some other coaches that fill in the days in between as well.
Nice. And are you teaching predominantly jujitsu, or what's your role?
No, so Mondays we do jiu-jitsu. Thursdays it's kind of more like striking on the ground. And then Fridays we do MMA. But on Tuesdays, I teach every day. On Tuesdays, I teach Muay Thai, adults from 6 to 7:30. And then Wednesday evenings, I also teach kids from 5 to 6, and then adults from 6 to 7:30. So every day, I'm there every day. Every weekday at least.
Yeah. Nice. And when you're teaching, are you like finding you're getting enough of your own training in as well, or do you then go?
Not all the time. Not all the time, but lately I've been trying to roll it as much as possible. So if I'm there, I'm trying to. So we get to, so we teach 45 minutes and then we roll for 45 minutes. And there'll usually be me and another few other coaches walking around, making sure nobody's getting hurt or just helping and coaching other people. So we'll take turns rolling, you know, as long as somebody has the eyes over everybody, then we usually just take turns. But yeah, not as much as I'd like, but you know, that's life.
Mhm. And are you still competing right now? Like when are you actively know when's the last time that you
No.
competed?
The last time I fought was in 2014.
Mhm.
I think 2014 or 15.
Mhm.
Maybe 2014. Sometime around there.
And
Long
where was
ago.
long ago? Yeah. And where was that?
Yeah. That one was in Trail, BC.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So there was, I think it was like Battle of the Borders. So there was a bunch of Americans versus a bunch of Canadians.
That's cool.
So yeah, that was a lot. That was a fun one. Yeah. Yeah. I got super sick on that one.
Well,
Yeah. The weight,
afterwards or before?
no, the weight cut was really hard. Um, yeah, my stomach was just not sitting well. So, I mean, I was able to hydrate and I couldn't really eat too much because so sometimes when you cut weight, if you drink water too fast or sometimes your stomach isn't sitting right, so you literally get the runs the next day. You know,
Mhm.
you're just shitting your pants and you're like, holy cow, I have to go get in a cage and just shorts, you know.
Mhm.
So just try to hydrate a bit, didn't eat too much. But yeah, I remember even afterwards, after the fight, um, like I felt fine during the fight. I felt good. Um, but even after, I mean, I didn't even drink. Just kind of hung out. You know, my stomach was just, yeah, definitely not right.
Mhm. What are your thoughts on weight cutting? I'm always curious as a fighter. Like,
Um, yeah, you know, my advice would be don't cut too much weight. Don't do it too fast. It'll give you longevity in the sport. Um, you know, honestly, the lighter I fought at 35 and 45, and I had better success at a heavier at 45
mhm.
than I did at 35. So, I mean, everyone always thinks you got to cut weight to be the bigger guy, but I know, I don't know. I don't think that's the answer.
Mhm.
You know, try to fight close to your walking weight. I'll cut a little bit, but you know, some guys cut a ridiculous amount, which, you know, it hurts. It hurts to cut that much weight.
Mhm. And then how is
Literally like
it?
dying.
Yeah, and then I'm always curious, like, how is it going into a fight after just having done that? Like, I've heard some people get energized by it if they do it well. Some people are depleted, like depending on how it goes.
Um, you know, yeah, I mean, mm, yeah, depending on how it goes, I feel like no matter how the weight cut went, the next day, I mean, I don't know. Usually that's not even in my mind. So I've had some pretty bad weight cuts. I've had some great weight cuts. Um, but honestly, that's just the scale, right? That's the first battle. So you
Mhm.
make it to the scale, good or bad, whatever the case may be. There's your first battle. You make it there, you make weight. Hey, it might have been good, it might have been horrible, but you still have a day to recover.
Mhm.
You know, so yeah, my advice is don't cut too much.
Mhm. Yeah, it's something I'm always fascinated about. Like I watch people like they're cutting weight. I'm like, what if you guys just both went and like fought each other, especially predetermined fights, where it's like for UFC, where there's like this guy versus this guy, it's an interesting phenomenon to observe. Having never done it, I mean, I've never cut weight for a fight, definitely not.
When you do big weight cuts in a short amount of time, you do definitely, or at least I felt like I lost a lot of power.
Mm,
You lose some speed, you lose power.
mhm,
Um, well, as long as you're lifting weights helps a lot. Like you don't have to lift anything heavy, but if you're doing a hard weight cut, lifting a little bit will definitely help you feel like you maintain your. Because if you don't and you do a big weight cut, you'll feel like you'll notice the difference.
mhm,
Definitely. And then, when I fought at 45, I didn't cut so much weight. I felt great. Like I felt like I hit really hard.
mhm. That's cool. So I would love to ask you this question that I love to ask everybody on here. What got you into martial arts? What was the entry into training your body for this purpose?
Um, I always loved striking. Just I loved it. I was fascinated by it ever since I was a little kid. So I remember I was in the 10th grade and like the first day of school, and some guys thought I don't know, kick some dirt at them. They were a year older than me, and they were on the bus and they both told me that we were gonna get in a fight on like the Monday or something like that. And there was two of them. So I thought, okay, well, I'm gonna have to fight both of them for sure. So I just went on. You remember the yellow pages?
Yeah.
Yes, I just went on the yellow pages, and then I seen a Muay Thai gym. I joined it, and which is Champions Creed. That back then it was BDB, and yeah, I've been with them ever since. That was when I was 15. I never ended up fighting those guys either. They just never happened. And you know what? I started training, and then I uh, I fought so much that when I wasn't there, I didn't want to fight because you know what I mean. You already go to the gym and you train and you fight so much that when you're not there, I don't know. I guess things didn't hit me so hard. I guess things bounced more. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, which was great for me. It's especially as being, uh, you know, so I had just moved back from Miami because I used to live in Miami. So I was at a new school, didn't know anyone. You go and you start training martial arts. The biggest thing I think you'll get is confidence. Because I would just walk by the halls knowing I'd be totally fine
Mhm.
if anything were to happen. Because I go to the gym and I'd fight, you know, grown-ups. I'd fight men. So whatever some kid at my school, it wouldn't be anything new that I hadn't seen. So it just gave me a really strong sense of confidence.
Mhm. And then did you find that that was just like a natural repellent? Like people were like, oh, let's not mess with that guy.
And not so much that I even told people. It's
Mm,
just even the way I carried myself. I mean, when somebody would act or talk like a tough guy, um, I don't know. I wouldn't really like listen to them or pay attention because I'd be like, I don't know. I just feel like you're not a tough guy. You're just all, I don't know, talk.
mhm,
But it would honestly, yeah, it was weird. I started training and then I like, I did get into a couple fights, but it was with when I was traveling or, you know, abroad. It was never in school.
mhm. Yeah, I love that. I love that it started with those two guys who were like making plans for you for Monday, and you're like, okay, I better go get prepare myself for this. And then of course the fight never happened. It's like,
Never.
I feel like these little messengers from God who are like, hey, like this is
I should
something
thank them. I really
totally.
should. I
Yeah.
really, you know what? And I don't know. You know, is it bullying? Maybe. Maybe you could call it that. You know, it never really affected me. And if you think about it, if it wasn't for that bullying, if you'd call it that, I wouldn't be who I am today.
Mhm.
You know, I don't know. Sometimes I wonder, like, is our society just so weak now? You know, I know bullying's, you know, it happens at school, but it kind
Mhm.
of shapes you into, you know, what kind of person you're going to be.
Mhm. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's interesting how much like emphasis there is now on bullying and whether that, I don't know whether that actually, whether that's like reduced bullying in school or what's actually happening in that situation. And find it fascinating when parents are enrolling their kids in martial arts because they don't want them to get bullied. And it, like personally, I'm like, this is the wrong approach. Like enroll your kids in martial arts so that they can have a lot of fun, so they can learn to be confident, so they can learn to use their body, but not from a place of fear or like, you know what I mean? This is my personal philosophy, but
Yes.
yeah.
You know, I tell parents you know what your kid's going to get out of this? They're going to get, you're going to gain confidence. They're going to gain confidence and boundaries.
Mhm.
So they're going to know not to cross somebody else's boundaries, but also not to let anyone else cross their boundaries.
Mhm.
So that's something else I tell parents a lot when they ask me, "Oh, what's my kid going to get out of this?" I tell them, "Yeah, confidence and boundaries."
Mhm. Yeah, there's something really to that where like you said, where you were just fighting so much in your training that you didn't really have a need for it. And I noticed that for sure is like there's that natural curiosity, I would say, especially for young men when they're teenagers, of like wondering how they would perform in a fight. And you get to train it, you're like, you know how you would perform. So there's that curiosity goes away. You're like, actually, I'd rather not have this go anywhere. You know, it's like,
That's just so funny. You know, when I remember, yeah, that's a good point. So people just get so upset. It's like they don't even, I don't know what reality they live in, and they just think just because somebody gets mad, they're gonna beat somebody up, you know, or just because they're bigger, they could beat somebody else up when they don't even have a clue how to fight. And I mean, it's like fighting is a sport, you know. It's like me. I don't even know how to skate. I I skate, right? I'm from Peru. Um, that's like me going up to a hockey player and be like, "I'm gonna beat you in hockey." It's it's just it's not gonna
yeah.
happen. It's something that's completely foreign to me.
Mhm.
So if you haven't had, you know, any training in fighting, it's completely foreign object, or it's a foreign skill to you. You have no idea what kind of what it takes, or you know,
Mhm.
what kind of world you're going to be putting yourself in if you do fight somebody that knows what they're doing.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
it is a reality shock. You know, there's levels to it.
Mhm. Yeah, I've heard that also from people who like trained one martial art, but that didn't necessarily prepare them for like an actual street fight. Or you know, I think it's an interesting thing to be aware of too, is that not all martial arts are created equal, you know, and there are certain things you can practice that are like, I even notice in our own, like at our club, where there's certain times where I'm like, okay, this is really valuable for like a competition where, you know, like where it's just very different. You know, if you're only training jujitsu and you never have anybody pretend to strike you training jujitsu, you're actually not necessarily preparing yourself for a real life situation, right? Like it's, like it's like there's lots of things you practice in jujitsu where if somebody was trying to strike you, you would not stay in that position.
Yeah. Um, each martial arts has their own set of rules, if you will, and oops, sorry, I'm just trying to charge my phone here.
Okay.
Each martial arts has their own set of rules, but MMA is the closest to street fight, but even MMA has rules.
Mm-hmm.
If you think about it, going to fight in a cage is the absolute safest place you can get in a fight with anyone in.
Mm-hmm.
It's sanctioned, there's people there, there's a ref,
Mm-hmm.
that's going to stop in if anything happens. It's the safest place to fight.
Yeah.
Where, you know, I mean, for jiu-jitsu, I think the closest thing that they have to a street is the gi. Anything to do with the gi is to me is very street. So
Mm-hmm.
if you know any collar chokes or anything, you could choke me out with my own hoodie.
Mm-hmm.
You could do everything, or you can grab my sleeves. There's tons of things you could do. But the reason why we use a gi is because if we did that in our normal clothes, we would destroy our clothes.
Mm-hmm.
Like you choke me out in my sweater's destroyed.
Yeah.
So there are parts to it, but yeah, when it comes to striking, or if you don't know how to wrestle,
Mm-hmm.
and if you can't take anyone down, then your jiu-jitsu's, it's no good.
Yeah.
But same thing if you're a boxer and
Yes.
somebody knows how to wrestle,
Yeah.
you're screwed.
Totally. Yeah, I remember my middle son was training Muay Thai, and my youngest son and I were training Jiu-Jitsu. And my middle son, like, I'd be like, "Come train with us," and he would just make fun of it. And like, he sent me this video of somebody being like their house invaded, and I'm sure you've seen it. But they're like, there's like somebody breaking into their house, and they like sit down, and they're like, "Come at me, bro." And they're like, in their like guard. But it's true. Like, also if you're training Muay Thai and then you take them down to the ground, well, now can you finish it? Can you mitigate it? I mean, what I love about jujitsu is that you can um, do a lot of control without a lot of damage, which is cool. It's like a
Mm.
very yeah, effective for that aspect. Whereas like striking could be like one strike and they're out. It's a different application or area. But what's the most challenging thing you've ever experienced? And maybe like a bunch of stories are going to come to mind, but it's like one of the most challenging things you've ever experienced in a fight or in a competition.
In a fight would probably be my last amateur fight. The week of the fight, you should take it easy. I mean, you ain't gonna learn anything really in that week. I mean, you might, but the probabilities are very low. You just want to rest, take it easy, make sure that you're 100% for the fight. But this was one of those ones where I was having a hard weight cut. And I went in on that Saturday, the day of the fight, to get just to move around, get some rounds in, just for drilling, just to get the blood going a little bit. So I went to class, and while we were drilling, I kicked somebody's elbow like pretty hard.
Mm.
And I remember I couldn't put weight on it. Like I couldn't put weight on my foot. My foot ballooned. And I remember just thinking like, oh shit. I hope that as soon as the fight starts, I get, because you get so much adrenaline. A lot of times when you're fighting, you don't feel stuff.
Mhm.
You really don't. And if you feel something, it's because it really, really hurt. Because you have
Mhm.
so much adrenaline pumping through your system. shin kicks, blocking kicks, getting hit in the face, you really don't feel it.
Mhm.
Um, but I remember in the fight, and it was my rear leg foot that got so my right foot that got damaged, and I
Mhm.
remember throwing a cut kick and thinking like, holy shit, that really hurt. So I
Mhm.
knew in my mind, if that really hurt, then something's really wrong with my foot.
Mhm.
Um, but you just put on a poker face and you act like everything everything's okay. And that was like the first maybe 10 seconds of the fight. And I knew my foot hurt so bad I couldn't push off of it. And so I knew I couldn't throw kicks, or at least rear cut kicks. And going for a double, shooting for a double or a single, or shooting for a takedown would be a lot harder, just because I couldn't put a lot of weight on my foot. So I finished the fight. I lost a decision, but that was probably probably one of the toughest things. Oh, and my ear exploded. I went in with cauliflower going in,
Mm.
and it got worse and worse, and yeah, it blew. It also blew because I was taking a lot of shots because I couldn't move how I wanted to. So just just from the beginning, I right from the start, I threw a kick, and then I knew right away how bad my foot was hurt. And
Mhm.
there's still 15 more minutes, so suck it up. And you know what? Even though I really hurt my foot, I was really happy with my performance. And yeah, I'm really happy with that fight. Even though I lost, I was so happy with it.
Mm. Yeah, there's some things to be said for that, right? Of just like you went going in, doing your best. And
Yeah.
I love like just the concept of like if you were to stop training anytime you got hurt or had an injury. Like, I mean, I've trained with tons of injuries. My training partners, I mean, one of the guys on our team was wearing a boxing mitt training jujitsu for like 2 months because he messed up his hand. I don't even remember what he did, but it's hilarious like watching him try to make grips on the gi with this mitt on. But when he took that glove off 2 months later, his game was exponentially better. So when you have like going through a 15-minute fight with a messed up foot, like right from the beginning, like before the fight even began, you're injured. I think those are the scenarios that just like up level your game as a fighter and show you also what you're made of. Where you're like, okay, I can't. Like, I'm curious, were you thinking about, I can't do that takedown, or can't, like, you're like calculating, like, hey, what can I do? Or was it just like,
Yeah, because I love cut kicks, as well as there was a point of time, I remember the second round where I had him up against the cage, and I went for a double leg takedown, but I let go because just how badly my foot hurt.
mm,
Um, so I just yeah, I remember trying to go for a couple takedowns, but I knew right away how badly it was hurt. Sometimes in the moment, I mean, everything's happening so fast, you're kind of on autopilot.
mm,
So there were a couple moments where I'm just on autopilot going for a takedown. It's not working because I can't push off my rear foot. So
mm,
it was just really compromised. And yeah, that's still one of my favorite fights.
mm. Absolutely. I love that. What would you say was the most fun you've ever had? Like, I mean, this might be a hard one to choose, but like most fun you've ever had in a competition or fighting, like a moment where you were just really like in your element and in the zone.
The most fun I would say would probably be I fought during did you hear when Calgary got flooded?
When what's right?
Calgary got flooded in like 2010 or something like that.
Vaguely remember that. Yeah.
So Calgary got flooded. I was supposed to have a fight with some guy from a gym called Bama in Manitoba, and the commission Sports Commission never got together. They never had a meeting about the amateur rules set for Calgary. So all the amateur fights from that card got scrapped. So including mine. Um, and so instead of fighting that guy, they didn't have enough fights on the card. I had just come off of a couple of really bad injuries. I cut my leg really bad at work. Twice actually. So I cut it. I had to take a month and a half off. Then I came back, and then I cut my toe really bad. So I had to take another month off. Came back, got strep throat, had to take a couple weeks. I wasn't even sure what was going on because of there wasn't having any amateur fights. So I was finally fine to come back to the gym. I came back. My coach is like, they scrapped all the amateur fights, but his coach, the guy that I was supposed to fight, his coach is looking for a fight, but he is your weight class. You'd have to go, because I was already thinking about going up to 45. So he's like, he'll do it at 45 instead of 35, but it has to be pro. So, do you want to do it? And I was like, yeah, sure. Let's do it. Why not? What's the difference? I get paid now, which is great. So I fought, again, like I was prepping for a fight. I was still, I was prepping because I knew there was going to be a fight in July, but then I kept on getting hurt and injured. And then the rain happened, so I didn't think I was fighting at all. I came back. They're like, hey, do you want to fight? It's going to be during the Stampede at the TELUS Convention Center. So I was like, yeah, let's do it. And because you don't get to fight in your home too often, especially during like the Stampede. It was just a big event. So I had a lot of fun that night. My stepbrother came in from Miami. My dad was there. He's from Peru. A lot of family was there. So I just felt like I had a lot of support. I had a lot of love. And that was one of my favorite moments. So for my walkout song, I chose this song, and then I thought, well, maybe I should try to be a little bit more intimidating. Everyone's trying to do that. So I thought, maybe I changed my song at the end to Mama Said Knock You Out by LL Cool J. You know that song?
Yeah.
I was like, great song. But, my coach always tells us the day of the fight, everything's going to go wrong. You're going to get a flat tire on the way to the event. Your stomach's going to hurt. They're going to play your wrong song. They're going to say your name wrong. Everything's going to go wrong. But just know that if you've done everything in preparation, then you can only control. There's only so much you can control, and preparing for the fight is one of them. Right. So as they were calling out my name, the song came on, but they played the wrong song. They played my first choice, which was Macklemore and We Danced. You know that song?
Yeah.
Completely different. So
Totally different vibe.
totally different. I love that song. It's a great song. So I went out, I had a great fight. I knocked the guy out. And then I was like, damn man, if I would have played that Mama Said Knock You Out, how cool would that? And I knocked the guy out. That would have been so cool. But after the fight, so I had so many people coming up to me and they were like, man, you had the best walkout. You had the best walkout song. Because everyone's trying to be so tough. And as soon as I hear that song, I just started laughing. I started laughing, and I kind of came out, and I just had a really good time on the walk to the stage, and so many people congratulated me just on my walkout. More so than me knocking the guy out. They just remember the walkout. They're like, yeah, and everyone's so tough. But your song was awesome. So
Great.
you
Does
know, you
Malcolm
get
more know about this?
Pardon me?
Does Macklemore know about this?
Nobody should.
He should.
You know, you get three opportunities to entertain: your walkout, the fight, and right after when they interview you. So
Mm,
you got three, and you know what? I tell the young guys that are fighting now, the same thing. You get three opportunities. One, make your walkout interesting. Make it unique. Make it so people remember you.
mm,
Two, prepare yourself for the fight, like we always do. And three, if you can go in there already having somebody in mind that you want to fight, it's just going to help you. It's just going to, because you call somebody out, you just had a great performance, people are going to want to see that fight,
mhm,
So you get three
mhm.
opportunities.
Yeah, I love that. Do you remember what your speech was at the end? Do you remember what you said?
To who? Oh, to the
Uh,
end in the interview. Yeah, no, it was I just talked about my injuries and how I didn't know what was going to happen, but um, because I cut my toe in my leg and I thought I was going to fight this, I was supposed to fight this other guy, but now I ended up fighting his coach, and it just things went my way that night.
mhm. Those are always my favorite. Like it's like
Yeah,
if we watch UFC together or whatever, I find that's like when I end up crying is when they're like doing their closing speech, or like thanking their coach and their family and God. Like so you're just like,
yeah.
oh man. Yeah.
I one of my brother's buddies was a liquor rep. He worked for Carlsberg. So Carlsberg actually sponsored me. They were my sponsors through all my fights.
Wow.
And yeah, so they'd give me a little bit of money. They'd give me a pay for the banner, for some logos, and they would always give me a keg. And I remember on that one, since it was at the Stampede, they got a table, and I guess some people from corporate came down, right? And they couldn't believe, like, they loved it. They couldn't believe, my buddy told me, he's like, they couldn't believe how much publicity they got for how little money we gave you. I was like, oh, well, I'm glad it worked out for both of us, I guess. Should have asked for more money.
I love that.
Yeah.
uh, you said your brother and your stepdad were at that fight. Anyone else in your family a fighter?
No, I mean, I've had some cousins that have trained martial arts, but nobody that's fought. No, just me.
Mhm. And I'm curious for you, like what's next in your vision as a like for yourself, your training, your coaching, teaching. What's the like? Is it just continuing with the program you're part of? Is there anything else in the realm of I don't know your identity as a martial artist that's on the horizon for you?
Yeah, I mean, I do have some goals. I want to compete in jiu-jitsu tournaments. Um, and honestly, I think I'm just gonna get into more teaching. I mean, that's really what I look forward to. Teaching, rolling. I still love to roll. Um, Hoping to get my black belt this year. And you know, just always staying. I always say have a white belt mentality.
Mhm.
Always train, always roll. I feel like a lot of times as people get belts, they feel like, oh, maybe I shouldn't get tapped by a lower belt, or I have to perform a certain way. And honestly, I'd say, like, forget about your belt. You're only competing against yourself. Try to keep that in mind. You're only competing against yourself.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I notice well I've seen a lot of well, not a lot, but I've seen brown and black belts come through our gym, and I noticed that there is a difference. Like many have that mentality of like still being curious and bringing it. And then I don't know, only once we had a guy come to our gym and he like sat out for the warm up and kind of like made fun of our coach. Like I was like, what is this? It was so rare to see that kind of attitude, you know, like it was an anomaly. Like we welcomed him and, you know, just rolled with the punches, so to speak.
I know a couple guys like that.
Yeah, it's part of the fun where you're like, you know, okay, you've got some attitude. He then wrote a great review about our school on his Instagram. I was like, okay, that was
Oh,
really nice. Yeah,
nice.
yeah. As a dad, I'm curious if you have any, like, you have a son, right? Am I getting
Mhm.
this right? Do you have any like vision for him? Has he expressed any interest in martial arts? I know he's
Oh
little.
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, we go to the gym. So sometimes on Sundays I'll bring him to the gym because the guys are sparring MMA. So we'll go there a little bit early. We'll just play around in the ring or in the cage, and then we'll stick around and watch the guys spar. And he always asks me to go to the gym.
Hmm.
So what now when we go, we hit bits together for a little bit. I really, I think he will be into it just because he wants to do everything daddy does, you
Mhm.
know, and I really love that me and him get the bond, you know, with through martial arts. So I'm really hoping that he does. But if he doesn't, I'm going to be okay with it. I'm just going to support whatever he wants to do.
Mhm. That's awesome. I love that. It makes sense that he wants to come and be a part of that. Absolutely.
Oh yeah, yeah, he loved it.
It's a little bit choppy, but I think we're okay. I'm curious for you, like one of the things that I've been drawn towards in this podcast series is like an inquiry into rites of passage and initiation and the role that that plays for specifically for men in our culture. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that. Have you yourself experienced, like, do you remember a point in adolescence experiencing what you would call rites of passage? Obviously we don't have formal rites of passage in our, well, not obviously, maybe you do in your family, but most people I talk to don't have like formal rites of passage like we would have had at one point in a more tribal way of living where men would be going out and like going on their first hunt, for example. I'm curious if you have any wisdom you want to share on that or your own personal experiences.
Mm, I guess rite of passage through for men in martial arts. Was that your question?
Yeah, through martial arts or anything else. Like any other rites of passage that, you know, sometimes a rites of passage can be going into the woods by yourself or going on an adventure or, you know, yeah.
Mhm. Well, for martial arts, for sorry, my eyes are really dry. For competing, you know, it literally is blood, sweat, and tears. Literally blood. And for guys and girls, um, you know, uh, fighting. When you're fighting, you're so vulnerable, right? You're expressing yourself and you're opening up yourself to failure. And when we do that, we make ourselves vulnerable. Um, so some days you have your good days, some days you have your bad days. Some days you're just so frustrated, you literally go home and you're screaming, not at your steering wheel, shaking, crying. You know, um, so I literally see it all the time, especially leading up to fights, and I tell the guys, it's literally blood, sweat, and tears. You will literally bleed, sweat, and cry here because you're just, you just pour so much of yourself into fighting. But for rite of passage, I guess it would just, that's the only thing that really comes to mind,
Mhm.
just the blood, sweat, and tears.
Absolutely. I mean, I have observed in the like adolescents who I know that, well, and in myself too, like competing was totally a rite of passage. I faced all kinds of fears, and the first time I competed, I was so filled with anxiety that I couldn't move in the morning when I woke up. I was like, I can't walk. Like it was intense. By the time I got onto the mat and like slap bumped, my gas tank was completely empty. Like I had burned everything out with anxiety. It was like
There's my coach has a really great little metaphor for that. Story about the zebra and the lion. So the zebra and the lion, they run into they run into a plane and they see each other. They're both aware of each other, but they're totally okay being around each other. Now, when the lion starts to chase the zebra, the lion, everything in the lion, gets amplified. So, his heart starts racing. Everything happens to make him be the absolute best lion he could be. He gets adrenaline and et cetera, et cetera. And same thing for the for the zebra. The zebra, same thing happens, and it body lets it be the absolute best zebra it could be to get away. Now, this only happens for a very short period of time, right? So let's just say the zebra gets away. Well, it's levels in its body drop again and it calms down. Same with the lions. Now, could you imagine being in that state of mind 24/7? So we as humans put ourselves in this state of mind where we give ourselves anxiety because we fear the unknown. So we put ourselves in these states so much so that by the time the fight gets there, we're already gassed. We're so tired because we've been literally we like our body been, revving to go, but we haven't just done anything. Right? We've just sit there and killed ourselves from the anxiety. So this is a speech we had today about the zebra and the lion. And these thoughts will come. Just breathe, calm down. There's nothing you can do. The lion's not here yet. So don't put yourself in that state of mind because you're going to burn yourself out. So funny how, you bring that up, and we literally just talked about that today.
I love that. Yeah, that's definitely that has like evolved for me since that time fighting. And I find it's best when almost best when I'm like not prepared, where it's just like a surprise, or you don't have a lot of time to like get yourself amped up for something. Or I was in Austin, Texas a few weeks ago, and I got to go train at 10th Planet. And it was neat because I was just like rolling with people I don't know, like in a completely foreign situation, and noticing that like mild like anticipation of like, okay, this is like a training partner whose style I have no previous reference point of, and we're just gonna go for it. And it's really neat how that lasts for like a nanosecond and then it's gone and you're just like on autopilot and moving your body, leaning into the pathways that your body knows how to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're just in it. You're just present with what is, not really like thinking about anything else. I love that about jiu-jitsu.
Same thing for MMA. You don't, and something else I told the guys today, you don't have to stay engaged. Like you don't have to just go into the pocket and bang it out with somebody. A lot of times you can just go in, do some striking, or let's just say you're getting overwhelmed, just move, circle, and you can
Mhm.
kind of get your bearings back again, and then go again. Same thing in jiu-jitsu. I mean, sometimes when we're in scrambles and you get so tired during these scrambles, you need a rest or just to reset your mind.
Mhm.
So
Yeah. Yeah, and like bring it back to your own pace or your own game. That's something that I have a hard time remembering.
mm,
I have been loving asking my guests on this podcast this next question of curious for you how you feel your martial arts training has impacted other areas of your life, including your like relationship with your wife, including your business, anywhere you want to go with that, but how this like foundation of training is has formed you or impacted you in your life. And obviously we don't know because we didn't take the option where you didn't sign up for Muay Thai, so we don't know that version of you. But I'm curious how you think it has impacted you overall in the rest of your life.
oh, it's definitely made me who I am today, for sure. You know, so it's one thing to do something and to finish it, and that's a goal on its own. You know, kind of like, again. So I know I'm referring to this morning a lot, but just a lot of great talks today. So no matter what, win or lose, if you make it to the cage, you've all won. Like you're gonna walk out better version of yourself. Now, if you want to do this professionally and you want to succeed at it, it's one thing to do it. It's another thing to do it and succeed at it. Um, so it's taught me a tremendous amount of discipline and work ethic. I mean, I know what it takes to I know what it takes to be successful at one of the hardest sports, in my opinion, one of the hardest sports. So I've just taken that same discipline and put it towards, my relationship, or I also have a business. I've put these, I try to put the same amount of effort into everything I do in life because that's how I guess that's how I measure effort and success, you know? So
Mhm.
it's really helped me that way tremendously.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely. I love that that's been a common theme so far in the interviews that I've done on here. Just that foundation for, knowing that like if there's something you want to accomplish in martial arts or in fighting, knowing the amount of like discipline and commitment and dedication, perseverance, all of that you put into that, and then if you can transfer that to your relationship or your business, can be, yeah, really impactful. I wanted to ask you, when you and I spoke on the phone last week or whatever, um, one thing that you mentioned was the transformation of like some of the young men and women who are coming to train with you guys, and like some of the we were talking about mental health and like some of that aspect, and I was wondering if you could share a little bit about that and what you're just seeing in terms of other things that are clearing up for people when they step into dedicating themselves to training.
Um, I feel like it's good for everybody. It's good for everyone's mental health. You know, you there's a lot of times people train their minds, but they don't train their bodies, or vice versa. They train their bodies, but they don't train their minds. So I feel like it's really having a balance of both to be in a good, you know, state of mental state, I guess. Um, you know, yeah, I mean, it really goes back. to confidence. Um, I mean, let's just say mental health. Let's just say you feel, why do you want to join martial arts? Oh, because I feel sad. Why do you feel sad? Oh, because whatever reason. It usually it's always confidence. Like, why do you want to? Some people want to join the gym for friends. It's like, well, why do you want to join the gym for friends? Well, so I can have confidence to make friends.
Mhm.
Or why do you want to join the gym? Oh, I want to lose weight. Why do you want to lose weight? So I just have more confidence in the way I look. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it really is, sometimes I feel like, we live such busy lives and it's so hard to shut our minds off that sometimes just being in the moment, being present is so hard for some people,
Mhm.
including myself sometimes, because we all have lots going on in our lives. But I feel like martial arts lets us be present and gives us the opportunity to be in the moment where, I always say, hey, you got bills, you ain't thinking about your bills while some dude's trying to smash you in the face or while some guy's trying to choke you out.
Mhm.
You're not thinking about anything else. You're just thinking about this moment right now.
Mhm.
So, which I feel like, it's really nice because it almost gives us our bearings back again. So even when we're fighting, um, like the story of the zebra and the lion, there are moments where we're amped up, where we need to perform, and then we relax. And in
Mhm.
those moments where we relax, it gives us the energy to perform at the red line when we need to, you
Mhm.
know. So by going and doing something, exercising your body and your mind, because jujitsu and martial arts is both, you're exercising both, it gives us a time to shut off, or I guess not worry about other things. So it
Mhm.
gives us the time to get our bearings back, let's say on life, because sometimes life can kick your ass,
Yeah.
you know. So you need to kind of be like, okay, life, give me a break here. I need to get my bearings back. I'm gonna, for some people it's riding their bike. For some people it's soccer. For some people it's hockey. You know, for a lot of people like us, it's martial arts.
Yeah, definitely really can relate to that. Like for me, I started training like, it's coming up on 2.5 years, like 2 years, 4 months ago. And well, I had taken actually, I took some classes a year before that, and then everything kind of shut down here with COVID and that kind of stuff. And then I did some private training with somebody, Muay Thai and like a tiny bit of jujitsu, but mostly Muay Thai. And then I started training jujitsu with Colton and our team here on Salt Spring. But for me, it was really like the desire to find something that was physically, mentally, emotionally, like as challenging as like what else I was experiencing in my life. Like I was a newly single mom, started a new business, like all sorts of just like I felt like my whole life was like me just like throwing myself off the cliff and knowing I would land like over and over again. It was just like endless courage in a very non-physical way or non-tangible way. And so then to have this very physical practice where I got to experience that in my body, like it actually really helped to just be like, okay, like this is, well, I love your zebra or yeah, zebra lion story, because really that, like as an entrepreneur, I'm constantly like, okay, am I avoiding that thing that I know I need to do for my business or for the expression of the work I'm here to do or whatever because I'm afraid? And the answer is always yes. Like the avoidance, people talk about procrastination, whatever. Like procrastination is your way of keeping you safe, right? It's like you have like an emotional experience that you're having that involves fear, and you're like, oh, I can't go there. The lion might get me or whatever.
And
And so training, but then it became so much more than that. Like I was just like, wow, I'm actually so in love with this sport and obsessed with it. And I love that you step onto the mat and nothing else really matters. It's like stepping into an alternate reality that to me feels
Yeah,
like so much more real than the rest of life sometimes, because it doesn't matter like you've had 4 kids, doesn't matter how old you are, doesn't matter how like I have like very separated abdominal muscles. Like none of that matters. You're just there. You're doing your best. You're like sometimes you're eating the bear, and sometimes the bear is eating you. You know, it's like, but
yeah.
yeah.
The mats don't lie. The mats do not lie. It's a reality check. And what I love it too is, it's such a great place also to network. I mean, it brings so many different walks of life together, and we're all equal on the mats.
Mhm.
On the mats, it don't matter how much you have in your bank account. None of that matters.
Mhm.
So I really love it for that.
Yeah, it's very real. I love that. The mats don't lie. Yeah, it's like it's not a level playing field. That's not the right frame for it, but um yeah, I also just love how much truth is revealed through any martial arts training where because you're not able to hide from anything. Like it will be exposed to you. Where you might not be sharing it with everybody, but it's like it's there and you're working through it. And um, for me, martial arts has become like a meditative practice. Like at the end of a really hard class, I'm like, wow,
Mm.
I feel so peaceful and relaxed, and now my brain works really well. And
Yeah,
it's, yeah, definitely.
it's great what it does for you, hey? Like not only for your body, but for your mind.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And like you say, like the people who are drawn to it are is some of my favorite people as well. Like just there's that commonality there. Um, is there anything that you would like to share with anybody listening in as something that has been like a philosophy that has carried you through challenging times, or words of encouragement? I do have young, like teenage listeners, and I mean, I have listeners across the board, but
Advice I would say, pressure is privilege. Um, pressure is privilege. And what happens when we prepare ourselves for situations where we're under pressure? If we're prepared, we create diamonds. We make diamonds. If we're not prepared, well, then you're going to get squished or crushed. I would say a lot of times, those days where you don't want to go train, or, let's say you didn't get a good night's sleep, you're always going to try to create excuses for yourself why not to go. And those are the days where you should be going. When you're tired, just be more technical. But always go, and always just start going through the motions. You think you're tired, but you're not really tired. You know, um, I would say definitely that. And it's something else too, man. A lot of these things I just get from my coach, Brian Bird. All the little sayings he's told me over the years. Um,
I really love that. Pressure is privilege. It's definitely uh,
yeah,
something that
it is.
resonates with me. Like when I write a lot, and I will talk about privilege in the true sense of privilege, which to me is the opportunity to face adversity or come through something challenging. Like those are those experiences that we are privileged to have, to that form us, that we get to overcome. So when you said pressure is privilege, I was like, that's beautiful.
Be comfortable. Be get comfortable being uncomfortable. If you feel uncomfortable or you feel awkward while you're doing something, that's a good feeling. That's something you should strive to feel because that means you're learning. That means you're doing something that you haven't done before. So just because something feels uncomfortable or awkward, just, you should always be trying to grow. So whenever you do feel, I guess, uncomfortable or, you know, I'm trying to find the words for it, but it's usually a good sign. It means you're learning and you're growing.
Mhm.
So look to be uncomfortable. And like I said before, get comfortable being uncomfortable, especially in this sport, especially in jiu-jitsu.
Mhm.
There's no such thing as a personal bubble.
No.
Yeah.
No, definitely not. Yeah. Yeah, I love that. It's almost like an experience that you develop a hunger for, where you're like, oh, I haven't like felt uncomfortable in a while. And then
Yeah, sometimes you learn some moves and you're like, man, when would I use this? When would I do this? This isn't part of my game. There's been so many times where I'm like, really? Like so, you know, there's a lot of fancy jiu-jitsu right now. And, to me, it's all about the basics, but it really is both. Because if you have really good basics, that'll open up your fancy, let's say, low percentage jiu-jitsu. And if you have those low percentage moves in your arsenal, then that'll open things up for your basic jiu-jitsu, if that makes any sense.
Mhm.
You know,
Totally.
yeah, because I mean, even at the highest levels, you're still seeing, as far as jiu-jitsu goes, you're still seeing matches get finished with like a bow and arrow.
Mhm.
The most basic moves.
Yeah,
So
totally.
it's
I
all
mean,
about the basics.
I'm still really like attached to my sequence of like closed guard, cross collar, triangle. Like these are my bread and butter moves, and I'm like aware that it's time to open things up and try for butterfly hooks and advance the game. But then a couple of months ago, I watched a super match at a local competition that the kids were in, and some of the adults on our team also competed that day. But they had a 10-minute super match between two black belts. And I watched this. It was so cool. First of all, just like to have the whole gym be quiet and just like
Mhm.
focus. Like I felt like I was in a church. Like it was like a beautiful experience. And the whole time, not the whole time, but a lot of those minutes, guess where they were? Closed guard. Like it was like I was like, he's going for a cross collar. Like it just was funny. But and I mean there were
Yeah,
other more advanced moves happening, but yeah, I love that going for the bread and butter. And
yeah,
every time I learn something that's more complex, like what you're talking about, the fanciness that's happening with jujitsu and this, like yeah, for sure, it's going in all these different directions. And when we learn those things, I do notice that what happens is new pathways open up for me to get back to having somebody in my close guard. So
Mhm.
all roads lead to Rome anyways, but yeah.
Yeah. If you have just your good basics, you'll be off the fancy stuff. And like
Mhm.
you say, you like, what do you like, your collar chokes and triangles?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, uh, you could just look to branch off from that, from the collar chokes, look for sweeps or just triangles, to arm bars.
Yeah, I like arm bars as well, and like from arm bar I can move to the back. Like it's expanding for sure. But there was a time where I was just like only close guard. It was like
Mhm.
my that was like home base. I was like I'm okay, I'm here, and now I kind of know what I'm doing mildly. But yeah.
It also helps having really great training partners, really playful training partners. I mean, let's just say me and you're, grappling, and we're both trying to kill each other. You're probably not going to try anything new. You're going to stick to what you know. That's it.
Mhm.
But let's just say me and you are grappling, and we have a really great sense of trust. Like I know, the hitchhiker escape.
Yeah.
Okay, let's just say you got me in an arm bar, and I'm gonna try the hitchhiker escape, but I trust you not to rip my elbow, like not to destroy my arm.
Mhm.
I if we're rolling and I feel like you literally want to hurt me, I'm probably not gonna try that. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? So it's only when we have a ton of amount of respect and trust is when we're really playful. And when we're playful is when we grow the most, you know,
Mhm.
especially for MMA. Because in jiu-jitsu, yeah, it's even more so when somebody's trying to when when you got like everything involved, wrestling, striking. I mean, if somebody's really trying to hurt you, you're just gonna stick to what you know.
Mhm.
You're gonna go
Yeah.
on autopilot.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's where I've always experienced the most growth is with training partners where first of all there's a ton of respect, trust. Like I know that we can like go hard, but neither one of us is likely to hurt each other. And then there's also that element of playfulness where yeah, you're just having fun and like not necessarily sticking to specific moves, but seeing what happens. And that's where it gets to be. That's I where we learn most optimally is when we're playing, right? Like, I mean, jujitsu to me is a lot like what I used to do with my kids when they were little, and we just like all roll around on the living room floor, or I watch animals in nature. Like, it's very playful, can be this like playful, childlike aspect to it of just having fun, being creative.
Yeah, I always tell the guys, you know what? If a girl asks you to roll, that means you're a good training partner.
Mm-hmm.
Because girls, like, they know what's up. There's guys that they won't roll with because they're
Mm-hmm.
just gonna get crushed, and there's no fun in that. And then there's other people that they like to roll with, and they know they're just gonna play. It's gonna be playful. We're both gonna get something out of it. So I
Mm-hmm.
always say, if a girl asks you to roll, that means you're a good rolling. There's trust because girls are
Mm-hmm.
only gonna ask people they trust.
Mm-hmm. It's so true. Yeah, 100%. Awesome.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to share in as we wrap things up today? Anything in closing for our listeners? It's been so great to have you here, and I can't wait till you come back. I hope you're coming back to train with our team
Yeah,
again
I
and
think so.
teach us
I think in the
some
fall.
topics. Pardon me, in the fall.
Yeah, yeah, I think in the fall. It would be great to get everyone from Salt Springs, like, because I trained at a few different little places. It'd be great to get everyone together, you
Mm-hmm.
know. And yeah, next time I'm down there, I'd love to teach too.
Yeah.
Um, it was kind of nice not teaching for once. I really enjoyed it. I think if I come down, I probably will come back with Clay. And I know that next time we're both looking forward to doing a little bit of teaching.
That would be amazing. That I would love to see that happen, and I love your idea of having like all the different people come together. I've trained privately with Drew as well, who he said that he got to train with you guys when you're here,
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah. Drew's great.
yeah, phenomenal. And I love that idea. I'll definitely I'll mention it to my coaches and plant those seeds. That would be super fun to do, like a maybe a longer workshop with you guys.
Yeah, yeah. I think it would be awesome. Same with, yeah, get everybody out, and yeah, um, you know, we're all white belts. We're all forever white, forever learning.
Yeah, absolutely. There are a few people on our jujitsu team who also train Muay Thai,
Oh
and
yes, yes.
there's there are like other MMA things happening on Salt Spring. So
Yeah, I
to
could teach whatever:
bring that,
wrestling, jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai,
yeah,
whatever. I teach it
I
all.
love it. I love it. Cool. I'm gonna pause our recording and then I'll just check in with you after I hit pause, if that's good. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for joining me and making time.
Thanks, Veronica.
Yeah, thank you so
Thanks for
much.
having me.